G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be having a look at a premium that a few of you requested when I put out a suggestion or a question for what should I take out in terms of a premium vehicle. One of the ones that were very, very common or prominent, I would say, is the JU-288C. This is perhaps one of the most fun bombers in the entire game. And I'll get to exactly why in a minute. But this thing sits at rank 4. And a lot of people use it to grind Silver Lions. And as you can see, this is a mixed battle on Mozdok. So you have both Germans on your team and Germans on the enemy team. Now, this is really interesting. Because you can see by the team composition that it's practically axis on axis. And you can see on my team, there are 3, if not 4, JU-288s. The same as on the enemy team. There are a lot of people queuing up in the JU-288 right now. And it is probably because it is, in my opinion, one of, if not the best Silver Lion grinder for any tier 4 plane in the entire game. And this is simple. It is a very consistent plane. It is very strong, and it has the potential to basically make your lot of Silver Lions in a single battle. The plane itself is nothing short of fantastic. It is probably one of the best bombers in the entire game. The plane has 2 SC-1800s, which is the Satan. That's the Satan bomb. And you can take out a base in a single bomb. So immediately, you can carry 2 bombs, and that means you can take out 2 bases. You can drop exactly 2 tons of explosives on the enemy. And once you've done that, because you're a Schnell bomber, you're already going at 500 or 600 kilometers per hour. So you've built up enough speed to go and engage fighters at ground level while they're still climbing. That is amazing. That is awesome. I've never seen another plane that can do this as efficiently as the JU-288 and earn as much in the way of reward. I think it's amazing. This plane is so consistent at doing that it's given me or garnered me something like 800,000 Silver Lions in the last 5 hours of playing it. I've only played this plane for about 5 or 6 hours, and it has gotten me almost 1 million Silver Lions. That's incredible. It is perhaps one of the most consistent grinders, and that is exactly what you need when you are flying the JU-288, and when you're grinding Silver Lions. Consistency is key, because essentially it is a grind. And with a grind, you don't want RP in a single battle, you don't want Silver Lions in a single battle, and you don't want kills in a single battle. You want consistency across the board, and this is something that the JU-288 exceeds at. You can see what I've got here in this case is I've got 2 fighters trailing me, and I'm putting a 20mm cannon to work. And this is one of the important things to note. This plane has a 20mm in the back. It is extremely maneuverable, especially for a bomber and especially at high speed. It has extremely strong wings. It can dive to 800 kilometers per hour without issue. I would say this is probably one of the strongest planes in the whole game. Battle rating for battle rating. Is it overpowered? Not really. There are several ways to take this thing out, and if you damage the engines, it's pretty screwed. It really relies on its good dive rate and its surprisingly good climb rate. This thing climbs extremely well. And it's kind of scary, actually. The way it climbs is just insane. I've never seen a bomber that climbs so well. I've never seen a bomber that handles so well. But it's probably just because it's got those giant engines, and those engines are basically the entire plane. I mean, they essentially propel you forward to a speed of up to 630 kilometers per hour, which is unheard of for any other bomber in the game at this battle rating. In fact, any prop bomber in the game at all. The only exceptions are, I would say, the regular JU-88, which tier for tier is probably stronger. But as a tier 4 premium, you're going to be using this to grind your Silver Lions. And this is perhaps along with the G55S, one of the most consistent ways to do that. I'm also trying the Dornier 335B2 for grinding Silver Lions, and that seems to be doing okay. But right now, we'll keep talking about the JU-288. It is an absolute monster. I've often had trouble fighting these guys, and in fact, I died to one of them in my F7F video. You can watch that and laugh at me all you want. But that was my first encounter with the 288, and needless to say, I think I've learnt a lot since. Now, we're in a battle here, changing scene to Normandy. Now, this is basically how I fly the JU-288. I start with my airspawn, and I dive. I just dive for one of the bases. Now, this is probably not the most efficient way to grind. Obviously, I'll get to that later. But what I'm doing is essentially I'm going to be diving towards the ground, and I need to be of value to my team. I can't just bomb bases, go home, J out, and keep going. That's just pathetic. That's just not a great way to be a team player. So what I've decided is that after I bomb my bases, after I take them out, I am going to distract the fighters as a minimum and see if I can pick up a couple of kills. Often, especially with allied teams, you tend to get people that lemming train after you. And one of the beauties that you have is that when people are following you, your strongest gun is pointing at them. You have that beautiful 20mm gun, and you can just put that to work against enemy fighters, enemy bombers, enemy attackers. Hell, you could probably even take it up against enemy jets, although please don't do this in ARB. If you're going to do it in tanks, because this thing would probably be a really reliable CAS plane. Although, I will say this, I would take the 217 over this plane for close air support in tank RB. Simply because the Dornier 217 has more bomb drops. You can drop, I believe, 3 with the E4, plus you have a front-mounted 20mm MG151. So it has a little bit more going for it. Granted, the 217 is heavier. It's a bit more sluggish, and it's not as schnell as this. Plus, it doesn't have the 20mm in the back. But in tanks RB, you're really not looking at picking fights. You're looking at getting your bombs off and getting out of there. And the 288 is, whilst good, I think the 217 is better. I really, really like the way this plane sits in the tree. It's sort of interesting. But no time to dwell on that because the P51NA or P51HNA has come for me. And yes, pilot sniped. Never approach this thing from behind. It's almost like a horse. You know what they say about horses. You don't approach a horse from behind because it'll kick you in the mouth. And that's exactly what happened, except I sniped the pilot. Kicked the pilot in the face, so to speak. And you can see I was trying to help out that Heinkel 162, and he got him. I feel very, very sorry for the 162. It's such a terrible plane. It's garbage. Nothing short of garbage, in fact. But here I am in my Schnellbomber going ham. Now, I'm basically going to head towards the Allied fighters and try and push them out. The idea is to be enough of a distraction to the enemy fighters that they pull off a valuable fighter. For example, this BF-109 in front of me, or a TAR-152. Now that's a Bearcat, and there will be a Spitfire joining him shortly, and another Bearcat, of course. So 3 against a single fighter and myself is not a really fun matchup, especially considering that I don't have any frontal guns and I need to rely on being a bother. Now, as you can see, I've gone for an evasive maneuver on that F8F. I don't have big enough frontal guns to sort of spook him enough, and I really don't want to take the chances with that glass cockpit. But you can really shift this hefty girl around, and it is beautiful. It's just amazing being able to move such a massive plane in such an authoritative manner. It's really refreshing, actually, because whilst the Dornier 217 or certain other bombers might not be as maneuverable, there are certain merits to most of these planes. And as you can see, that 20 mil going to work is just simply beautiful. You can really, really do some damage, and that Spitfire is no longer on the Bf-109, which means that the Bf-109 can engage the Bearcat, and I believe that was him there in the kill feed. He's just won his engagement. So, yeah, would you look at that? I'm pretty hurt, but I have 2 kills, and I'm on top of the team. I have a lot of reward looking my way. Now, as you can see, there's a Spitfire coming up close, but this is probably going to spell the end. I don't think that there is a way for me to survive 3 engagements from behind. 2, you're starting to push your luck, basically because this plane isn't tanky enough. But that's okay, that's a balancing factor. That's one of the things that makes this plane balanced and fun and interesting. Now, as you can see, I'm spraying. I'm waiting for him to level out, and then I'm just going to hail him with bullets, and as you can see, that works. The only trade-off is I'm set on fire, and that's going to kill me. He's still returning fire, which I found really, really amusing. As you can see there, he's only lost a wing. And leading with the bombers is something you're going to have to get used to, and that takes a little bit of practice. But often, facing away from the enemy is the best way to win an engagement with them in this plane. Slow down a little bit if you have to. Try and make the closure rate not too drastic, but high enough so that they're closing and they feel like they're going to gain on you. And then, as they hit about 1.1, hit that WEP, go nuts, and try and keep a distance of about 1 kilometer away from your enemy, and just hail bullets. Hail bullets at them and let them spray at you. Let them think they've got you. And then you just wreck them with a 20 mil out of nowhere. Hit them in the pilot, hit them in the engine, set them on fire. But let's take a look at the results. Now, these are particularly interesting because you can see that I actually earn a lot more from killing enemies than I do from bombing bases. And this is really important to note, because bombing bases is not as lucrative as you might think. You've got to keep your battle activity up. So my advice would be, once you're done bombing bases, go hunt some fighters. You'll have a lot of fun. It's such a nice plane. And if you get a discount, do buy it. That's my flat recommendation. Just buy it. Anyway, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.